we are 8.5% away from reaching the halfway point of this game. And I think now that we've done most of our European race event endeavours at this point, I think what I'm now going to do is continue with the driving missions, because I think that's a good spot to continue our progress. So we now have what's more or less the final part of the driving missions here, and that is the one-lap magic battles. Basically where we have to overcome a deficit to go from last to first in one lap. It's pretty self-explanatory if you know what to do. So, something else that should be mentioned here is the one-lap magic battles here, they're split up into two. So, expectedly, this will be a two-part series, and of course we have the infamous Mission 34, which is where we will end it. And because we are not doing the Spec 2 model of this, it's just another 10 missions we have to do. So, let's begin. So we are beginning at Fuji Speedway 80s, where we have to overcome a 35-second gap to catch up to the leader. So basically these cars are going from slowest to fastest, or the least powerful car up to the most powerful car. We basically have to overcome a 35-second deficit in order to catch the leader. This should be simple enough from what I can see, because, well, the first part of these one-lap magic battles, they're pretty simple. And we have a 16-second deficit to overcome in order to catch the 350Z, but I think we should be okay for this, because I'm convinced in saying that the traction control is of course on for this. So I think we should be okay in my opinion. This one is pretty easy to get through if you know your way around Fuji Speedway 80s as well as I do. You know of course that you can basically take these corners flat out. And as long as you don't run into the opponents ahead of you, then you should be able to make the finish pretty easily in this one, from what I can see. So just be patient, the AI will move out of your way, and soon enough you will find your way to the front of the field. Had a little bit of a whack there from the 300ZX, but nothing egregious. And just like that, we are done with the easiest one-lap magic. As I displayed there, pretty easy to get through the first one. Even though if you really are wanting to set the benchmark pace, then you probably would be able to gain as many as probably 3 seconds at most, as we are now past 1 million credits once again. So that was One Lap Magic Mission 1, now let's move on to Mission 2. And now we are at Suzuka Circuit for Mission number 2, and by this time we have to overcome a 90-second deficit in order to catch the Honda S500. This one isn't too hard from what I know either. I think we should be able to catch the S500 pretty easily here. And we've got a 90-second gap to overcome. so I'll probably just skip the rest of this bit out so you don't have to watch it. Here we go. And so, we now begin with mission number 2 in the One Lap Magic sequence. Split up into 2 parts for whatever reason, but I am of course going to make sure this will pretty much be a 2-part episode because, well, we get 2 separate prizes from beating all of the missions. And yes, that does also include the infamous Mission 34. And if you're asking, yes, I am aware of the recent Spec 2 mod, but I don't really have any intuitions of trying it anytime soon. But that's just me. Because personally, I don't really have the time to check out gaming mods usually, and also because, well, I have to consider everything else outside of the gamer desk, which is what I try and do. So now passing the Integra. I don't know if I'm going to catch the S500 in time, and almost getting loose there out of 130R. It's going to be close, but I don't think it's going to be close enough. Yeah, I think it's just got me. Oh, never mind. I just got him instead. I stole it right at the death of this race. Did not think I was going to get there, but I somehow did. And unsurprisingly, the bottom 2 did not finish. Anyway, there we go. Between old and new Hondas, the Honda TAKATA Dome NSX reigns supreme. And I think for that reason, it's a good time for me to save a replay. Because why the hell not? Especially since I am steadily closing in on the fucking halfway point of this game. We are getting through this nicely. Still, I did not think I was going to snatch it right at the end, but I somehow did. Guess that's just what you have to do sometimes. Anyway, on to the next one. And now we are moving on to Mazdas. And by this time, we are driving the iconic Mazda 787B around Laguna Seca. So this is probably going to be a pretty big deficit to overcome as well, yes it is. So now I must speed this up. You know, one unique feature with this car is basically just the way the windshield in the windshield wiper on the center of the windscreen. It basically just moves around whilst you're driving the car, and I think that's actually pretty cool from what I can see. But either way, I'm hoping to put together a less silly run than what I put together before. And it was pretty silly because, well, I went off track twice, and that was ultimately what cost me in the end. I didn't even get to the finish before I got caught out by the grass in front of me, so yeah, it's fair to say my previous run, it did not deserve to go on the way it did. And I think that FC might have just cost me. Or maybe not. Well, I wasn't penalised for it, so I'd assume the game saw nothing wrong with that. Probably wasn't intentional contact either. But nonetheless, I got that one pretty easily. So that's now 3 out of 5 on the board. And as ever, the bottom two don't finish because, well, they're further back compared to everyone else. So another 7.5 grand. We're now well into the 1 million territory at this point. I could actually save this replay if I really wanted to, but then again, I probably don't need to because I already have a replay saved. And so we return to Fuji. This time, we are doing the 2005 variant. And to make things even more interesting, we also have the fuck you chicane that is at the bottom of the circuit. The newly constructed Fuji Speedway. Hard to find your driving rhythm. And we are driving a Toyota Celica that's apparently called Daruma. Don't know what that means. Anyway, let's get moving. I'm honestly not surprised to say this one exists. I'm really not. And so we begin our penultimate fixture in part 1 of the one-lap battles. Actually, part 1 of the one-lap magic battles. Something that, believe it or not, actually returned in GT7. Except for saying that, well, I'd say they were okay altogether, but I do believe that personally the GT4 one-lap magic fixtures are better than the GT7 fixtures. And the only reason for that is because, well, there isn't really as many of them in GT7 as there are in GT4. I think there's a total of, what, 10 one-lap magic battles here? Whereas I think GT7 has probably 3 or 4 at most. So you can probably understand why I think the GT4 One Lap Magic Battles are better. Because, well, there's more of them. And it looks as though this one is going to be the easiest one I've done of the bunch. So, 3 out of 4, I finished them first try. And this one, I finished with a 4.4 second win. So, this one has definitely been the easiest, from what I can see. Compared, of course, to all the others. Anyway, we just have one to go now, and it is at Sonoma. And where this time, we will be driving a Corvette. And we are now driving the Chevrolet Corvette C5R. And where at the front, we have got the iconic and beautiful Corvette C1. So, let's see how we go. And, as I would have expected, generational Corvettes here, so you pretty much get the picture. As I now speed things up. So, here we go now with our 5th and final mission of part 1 in the 1 lap magic battles. And it is with the racing Chevy Corvette C5R. Ironically, a car that competed in both the 24 Hours of Le Mans and also was a car that, believe it or not, was also driven by, I think, Dale Jr., if I'm not mistaken. Even though his run in the Corvette C5R didn't exactly go according to plan because, well, it was ironically here at Sonoma where Junior, when he was competing in a sports car race here at Sonoma, he had a fiery crash, and it was fair to say that it did leave him with burns. So, although the run altogether didn't exactly pan out for Dale Jr., I have a feeling he still enjoyed the experience altogether. I am pretty sure this was the same car that Dale Jr. drove at Sonoma one year, which is more or less what this course is. But anyway, there we go. So we are up by another 37.5 grand, taking our total now up to 1,034 grand. And now we will move on to part 2 as soon as we get our prize car. So the car we get for completing lap 1, or part 1 of the 1 lap magics, we get the Toyota 7. Yes, this thing. Ironically, another race car that, for want of a better phrase, was ahead of its time, but was also known for being probably too dangerous to drive for its era. I think if it had a few more safety features fixed, the Toyota 7 would have definitely had a bit less of a stained legacy than what it actually has. Which I think is a shame, because, well, I do believe that car could have gone places, like most of the Toyotas. But, as a wise man once said, the greatest lessons in racing are taught by catastrophic failure. To quote Emp Lemon. Anyway, so let's go and find our Toyota 7. Ironically, another race car that was definitely ahead of its time. And this car actually doesn't sell for too much. But you know what? I don't really need to sell it, because, in all honesty, I still think this car is cool. Even then, of course, if there aren't many people who have thought about using this thing. But you know what? I might consider using this thing for a future event. If I really wanted to. But anyway, there we go. That's the car we win for part 1 of the One Lap Magics. And next time we will be getting through part 2. Coming in the next episode.